The quiet hum of Maplewood Lane had always been a balm for Ethan Carter's weary soul. 3 years ago, he'd rolled into this sleepy suburb in his modified van. Its wide frame a necessity after a motorcycle crash left him with a limp and a right leg that ached like a storm warning on bad days. The neighborhood had charmed him instantly. Neatly trimmed hedges, pastel-painted mailboxes, and driveways that whispered promises of suburban peace. His own driveway, broad and accommodating, was a rare find, perfect for the van that had become his lifeline. Ethan, a soft-spoken man in his late 30s with a mop of chestnut hair and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, had hoped for a fresh start here. But he hadn't counted on crossing paths with Marjorie Finch, the iron-fisted president of the Maplewood Homeowners Association, a woman whose pastel cardigans masked a temperament sharper than a winter wind. It started with a simple request. Ethan's leg, still unreliable after the accident, made the short trek from the street to his front door a grueling ordeal on flare-up days. He'd researched his options, filed the paperwork with the city, and secured approval for a disabled parking sign in front of his house. The process had been smooth, almost too smooth, he'd thought at the time. The city crew arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning, planting the sign with a satisfying thud into the curbside soil. Ethan watched from his porch, sipping coffee, feeling a rare flicker of triumph. By Wednesday afternoon, that flicker had dimmed. The sign leaned drunkenly to one side, its metal pole sliced halfway through as if someone had taken a hacksaw to it in a fit of spite. Puzzled, Ethan hobbled to his laptop and pulled up the footage from the security camera he'd installed above his garage. His jaw tightened as the grainy video revealed the culprit. Marjorie Finch, her white capris pristine and her lavender cardigan buttoned to the chin, wielding a pair of garden shears like a suburban warrior. She hacked at the pole with a fervor that bordered on theatrical, her lips pursed in a thin line of determination. Ethan rubbed his temples, incredulous. He'd heard whispers about Marjorie. Neighbors called her the enforcer behind her back, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. He fired off an email, keeping it civil despite the heat rising in his chest. Marjorie, I noticed my disabled parking sign is damaged. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding, but I wanted to let you know it's city approved and falls under ADA regulations. Any idea what happened? Her reply pinged back in under 10 minutes, sharp and unyielding. That sign is an abomination. It violates Maplewood's aesthetic standards. The HOA board was not consulted. Remove it, or you'll face $75 daily fines starting tomorrow. Ethan stared at the screen, her words glowing like a neon threat. He typed a measured response, attaching a PDF of the city permit and a link to the Americans with Disabilities Act, explaining that federal law trumped HOA rules. Her retort was swift. Not in Maplewood, it doesn't. We have standards. By Thursday morning, the sign was gone, snapped clean off at the base, lying in the grass like a fallen soldier. The security footage this time showed Marjorie at dawn, her silhouette illuminated by the faint glow of streetlights, an electric saw buzzing in her hands. She worked with the precision of a surgeon, and when she finished, she turned to the camera, her eyes locking onto the lens with a smirk that sent a chill down Ethan's spine. It wasn't just defiancy, it was a declaration of war. Years of physical therapy and quiet resilience had taught him patience, but this was different. That parking space wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity, a lifeline on days when his leg felt like it was made of shattered glass. He tried a new tack, sending Marjorie another email, this one dripping with polite restraint. Marjorie, it seems my sign was damaged again. I'll be reinstalling it per city ordinance. I've attached the relevant laws for clarity. Let's keep this neighborly, shall we? Her response was a single line. All installations require HOA approval. Denied. What Marjorie didn't know, what no one in Maplewood knew, was that Ethan wasn't just a guy with a limp and a van. He was a real estate attorney, a quiet expert in the labyrinth of property law, honed by years of untangling commercial disputes. He'd kept that detail to himself, preferring the anonymity of a fresh start. But Marjorie's antics had awakened the litigator in him. He called his old friend Sarah at the city planning office, who sighed audibly over the phone. We've had run-ins with that HOA before. Marjorie thinks she's the queen of Maplewood. Don't worry, Ethan will replace the sign, no charge. Friday morning, it's yours. The new sign went up, gleaming under the midday sun, and Ethan took no chances. He adjusted his garage camera for a wider angle and enlisted his neighbor, Tom, a wiry retiree with a grudge against Marjorie after she'd fined him for a rogue garden gnome. Tom rigged a motion-activated camera inside a faux birdhouse, its lens peeking through a knothole. "She's a menace," Tom muttered, securing the device. "Took a weed whacker to my petunias once cause they weren't uniform. Good luck, man." Sure enough, Saturday dawned with Marjorie in action. At 6:03 a.m., Ethan's phone buzzed with a motion alert. He opened the live feed and watched, heart pounding, as Marjorie decked out in a teal tracksuit approached with a cordless reciprocating saw. Her face was a mask of grim resolve as she sliced into the pole, metal shavings glinting in the morning light. Ethan had prepared for this. The night before, he'd called the police non-emergency line, laying out the pattern of vandalism and asking for guidance. Now, as Marjorie sawed away, he dialed 911, referencing the prior report. Two officers rolled up silently, their cruiser's lights off, catching Marjorie mid-cut. She froze, the saw's hum dying as she registered their presence. Her attempt to tuck the tool behind her back was almost comical, like a kid hiding a stolen cookie. "Ma'am, what's going on here?" Officer Delaney, a stocky woman with a no-nonsense stare, asked. Marjorie straightened, brushing a strand of platinum hair from her face. "Routine board inspection. This sign's unapproved HOA jurisdiction." Ethan limped out, phone in hand, the birdhouse footage queued up. "Officers, this is the third time she's vandalized my city-installed disabled parking sign. I've got permits, ADA documentation, and video proof." He played the Clips Garden shears, electric saw, and now this Marjorie's smug grin punctuating each act. Officer Ramirez, older and graying, coughed to hide a laugh as he spoke. "MS. Finch, HOA rules don't override city law or federal protections, and they definitely don't cover sawing up public property." Marjorie's cheeks flushed a furious red. "Do you know who I am? My cousin's on the city council, Paul Grayson. This is outrageous." The officers exchanged a glance, but proceeded with the citation, unfazed. Ethan thought that might be the end of ticket, a slap on the wrist. He underestimated Marjorie's tenacity. That afternoon, his inbox pinged with an emergency HOA alert sent to every Maplewood resident. The subject line screamed, "Abuse of disability privileges." Marjorie's email accused Ethan of faking his condition, complete with grainy photos snapped from God knows where of him unloading groceries and walking his golden retriever, Daisy. "This resident claims disability, but clearly doesn't need special treatment," she wrote. "Maplewood won't tolerate fraud." Ethan's blood ran cold. This wasn't just petty, it was personal, a public smear crossing every line of decency. He didn't hesitate. He called his doctor for updated medical records, contacted the city's disability advocate, and looped in his old law school buddy, Rachel, a bulldog in discrimination cases. Together, they drafted an emergency injunction and a restraining order against Marjorie and the HOA board. The case landed before Judge Eleanor Voss, a silver-haired jurist known for cutting through neighborhood nonsense like a hot knife through butter. 2 weeks later, Ethan faced Marjorie in a courtroom that smelled faintly of polish and stale coffee. She swept in with the HOA's attorney, a slick man in pinstripes, her navy blazer crisp and her pearls gleaming. Ethan, in a simple button-down, opted to represent himself, armed with a flash drive and a stack of printouts. The attorney launched into a grand defense of HOA sovereignty and Maplewood's curb appeal, sidestepping the vandalism entirely. When Ethan's turn came, he let the evidence speak. The courtroom monitor flickered to life with the first clip, Marjorie with her shears, a suburban vigilante. Then the electric saw, her smirk a silent taunt. Finally, the reciprocating saw, followed by her indignant exchange with police. Ethan layered on the email-sure threats, her denial, her venomous alert, and capped it with medical records proving his condition. The room went silent, save for the hum of the projector. Judge Voss removed her glasses, her gaze piercing Marjorie like a laser. Ms. Finch, are you aware that interfering with a disability accommodation violates civil rights? That publicly challenging a documented disability flirts with defamation? Her voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Marjorie's attorney stammered, but Voss pressed on. I'm granting the restraining order 50 feet from Mr. Carter's property, effective immediately. I'm also fining you $6,000 for the civil rights breach and referring this to the DA for criminal vandalism charges. Marjorie's composure cracked, her hand hovering mid-tap on her attorney's arm. You can't, she began, but Voss cut her off. Furthermore, you're removed as HOA president, effective now. Your actions show a reckless disregard for legal boundaries and a pattern of harassment. Marjorie's protest, the bylaws don't, died under Voss's glare. My rulings do. Court officers, escort her out if she interrupts again. As the gavel fell, Marjorie sat stunned, her empire of rules and petty power dissolving in a 25-minute reckoning. Ethan caught her in the hallway later, staring at her phone, the court order's email glowing on the screen. For once, Marjorie Finch the enforcer, the queen of Maplewood, was speechless, her reign undone by the quiet man with the limp she'd underestimated from the start. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.